Who's up for a mystery? Enola Holmes 2 has arrived on Netflix, and it brings back Millie Bobby Brown and Henry Cavill. But is the mystery any good? Now a detective for hire like her famous brother, Enola Holmes takes on her first official case to find a missing girl, but the sparks of a dangerous conspiracy ignite a mystery that requires the help of friends and Sherlock himself to unravel. Now, while the first Enola Holmes movie wasn't awesome, it was lighthearted and fun for a casual mystery and a different take on the Holmes mystery angle. Millie Bobby Brown returns for the cleverly named sequel, Enola Holmes 2. And she's now trying to be a proper detective. And so when she lands her first real case, she gets embroiled in murder and conspiracy, all while trying to balance a potential relationship. There's a lot of fourth wall breaking in this, which is in line with how the first one was. Enola will often speak to us to catch us up on story elements, or even give us asides with a wink or a nod. And sometimes these are fun. Other times they become tiresome and overused. There's quite a bit of show and then re-show when it comes to scenes, where we'll see an aspect of a situation and then we'll flash back to show us a new angle with more understanding. Now this isn't a unique style, but it tends to work well for mystery stories. And this also has the potential to become an overused story device, but I think the movie restrains itself from utilizing the technique just at every opportunity. Now, Millie Bobby Brown is a good choice for the role as she can effectively capture snark as well as perform the action that's needed for the scenes. And plus, she retains a bit of that teenage impulsivity that really gives her character some charm, and it also allows her to get into some precarious situations. The mystery in this is pretty engaging, with Enola searching for a missing girl. Now, the story incorporates puzzle solving and sleuthing, and I just thought that was engaging and intriguing in a pretty lighthearted way. Now, there is peril for the characters that's inherent to the story, but it doesn't ever go as dark as the story suggests that it could. Henry Cavill also is featured in this, and he gets a larger role than he did in the first movie. Now, he's playing Enola's older and more famous brother, Sherlock, who's also working on his own case. And really, I think this is where the story begins to falter a bit. It's biting off more than it can chew, making for some convoluted story additions. Like, just the movie is trying to cram in several arcs and give them all equal weight, but then that takes away from the central mystery. And there's a lot going on in this. We've got Enola working her case. She's trying to find her own way in the world. She's also got a semi-budding relationship. And Sherlock is investigating his own mystery, which is a bit vague, by the way. Now, all of these do converge in some way or another in the final act, but to get there, the story feels like it's not sure where it really wants to go. David Thewlis makes an appearance in this, and while I think his arc is 100% predictable, he's great to watch. I mean, he adds a layer of mistrust and quiet menace to the story, which does help the drama aspect a bit. And like in the first film, we also get performances from Helena Bonham Carter, Susan Wokoma, Adil Akhtar, and Louis Partridge. Now, there's a really fun action sequence with Bonham Carter and Wokoma that added some good excitement to the story with this carriage chase that goes through the woods. Now, the stunts are decent, but it's mainly the increase in pace that's at this point that really adds the urgency and the fun to what we're watching. There's also a great extended fight scene in the final act of the film where several actors get to take part in a brawl. Now, the progression of that fight is very obvious, but it still manages to add some tension to the story, which again made that scene just more engaging. But not every scene of this is engaging. I mean, there are moments that are intriguing and enjoyable where I'm hooked on what's going on with the characters in the story. But then when things start to get just distracted within the narrative, thanks to too many plot points, that's when it all starts to fall apart. And I'm not saying that this is a full-on deep and complex mystery that would be riveting had there not been so many storylines, but I do think it would have been a tighter story and told more concisely and effectively had they excluded some of the extraneous arcs that really just don't support the main mystery. And this is also way too long of a movie for what we're given story-wise. This is 2 hours and 10 minutes, and there are more than a few scenes where I did feel the time. The story begins to wrap up with about 30 minutes left, so we've already gotten a villain monologue and the exposition dump explaining everything, and then it goes into the final brawl that I had mentioned before. Now, I'm all for a bit of explanation, but it didn't need to be as detailed as it was simply because the story just wasn't that obscured. I mean, I enjoyed the action that followed, but when the story feels like it's wrapping up and then it doesn't, that's when time becomes very noticeable. So for me, this is where I land with this. I mean, it's a lighthearted mystery movie with some enjoyable characters and some exciting action, but there are way too many story elements that are just fighting for prominence, which then makes this just entirely too long. Now, as a casual watch, the movie's fun enough to keep you engaged, but also you know that it may begin to bore you at times when the story is stretched. So overall, Enola Holmes 2 provides mild mystery and intrigue with a cast that has some moments to shine. The story's overpacked, leading to a narrative that takes too long to tell. The action sequences add excitement, but not enough to catapult this into a must-watch. There's no sex or nudity, very little profanity, and a bunch of violence. I give Enola Holmes 2 2.5 out of 5 couches. So are there any good mysteries that you've watched recently? I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.